I needed to come back and get my first real job in Germany. And ever since, I've been working for DB Systel. So something must be going really right. And to me, that is, I've had quite a career in those 15 years. I started off as a developer. Then I became a process manager in software testing. Eventually became a line manager in software architecture. And I'll tell you later, and then I'll become an agility master for a team, for a security team, and nowadays I'm an agility master for a unit. DB Systel might not be very well known. Now Deutsche Bahn Group, the concern is quite well known. You all probably use our trains, the regional ones, the IC trains. You know that. What most people don't know, we do most things ourselves. We do our own energy, we build our tracks, we do our own security, we look after the train stations, and so on and so forth. And we maintain our trains, and your Apple iPhone might even be transported and came from Taiwan by Schenker. So we do also planes, ships, and trucks, not only trains. And that's why I'm here. We also do our own IT, and that's DB Systel. DB Systel is, since 2022, at least a 1 billion euro company, only within Deutsche Bahn Group. We're more than 6,000 people on board. Our sales pitch is that we combine railway and IT expertise. We moved our data centers completely into the cloud, and we do a lot of stuff, obviously, around IoT, because obviously Deutsche Bahn has a lot of technical hardware stuff out there. We're mainly centered out of Frankfurt, but nowadays you can work from almost anywhere, especially from Erfurt and Berlin as well. Right. So what's this agility thing about? I'd like to make first to define two terms, because we usually mix that up when we do everyday language. Now, complex and complicated, we sometimes mix that up, and that's two different things. Complicated are things that you can do, rules, checklists, they are easy to automate. Complex are things that need human interaction, and all agile models focus on complexity. So when you have something that's complex, it's a good idea to think about agility. Where we wanted to go with our transformation, our agile transformation, and where we are today is we are an agile and flexible company. That means we can adapt to whatever our Deutsche Bahn customers, internal customers need. We can change our business models, our services. What we also did, like management tasks, responsibilities used to be with managers. Nowadays, the responsibility is shared across the different roles. Like everyone has a certain responsibility, and they must fulfill that responsibility. And obviously, when you have an agile transformation, not surprisingly, we work with agile methods like Scrum or Kanban. Now, the next thing that's very important to me is that self-organization, agility, has nothing to do whatsoever with anarchy. It's not chaos, it's not anarchy. It's actually very, very structured. And the main thing to remember is that any transformation, self-organization needs a certain context. It needs constraints. I like to show a frame. And the best example, unless you're very, very religious, is evolution. Evolution works self-organized. Unless you're very, very religious, there's no higher power that demands you need to grow another leg or, I don't know, a heart or another eye. Yeah, you can develop yourself within this planet, but you need to stay within the constraints. Now, if you want to breathe sulfur, it's probably not a very good idea on Earth. It's a very good idea to breathe oxygen. And we have that context, and we even have certain rules and regulations around it. We even have like a Gesamtbetriebsvereinbarung, which is hard to translate to English, but it's something like a contract we dealt with the workers' council. So everyone knows I can do self-organization within that context, and that's very important. If you want to start with self-organization, that's one thing you need to start with. But on the other hand, self-organization is going to happen anyway. If you set very small constraints, the danger is people will self-organize outside those constraints, and you will have the impression they do what they want. If you then adapt to that, you probably end up with a much more flexible organization. Now, a lot of people probably don't expect us to be so agile and so on and so forth. You may have the picture of Deutsche Bahn being very traditional and hierarchical, and I don't know what. And in 2014, we were very good at planning long-term projects and making big plans and planning months ahead. But what we weren't so good at was like a mobile application. You only have like 50,000 euros to implement a small mobile application. And you can't do that with overblown CMMI processes. So what we did is we started some initiatives which were bottom-up movements where you could join, and it's not... it's in the sessions that are not recorded, I mention names of big strategic management consultancies. I'm not going to do that here. Who usually come in, they consult you, and then they do a lot of PowerPoint, and that PowerPoint is shown around the company, and nothing changes. We did that the other way around. We did it ourselves, and one thing was, okay, we need to change this organization. We need to work in an agile, flexible network mode, and to achieve that, we need to take that team by team. We need to build up teams and take that bit by bit from the old structure into a new structure. Another thing that was very important to us is, in German it's Augenhöhe. It's quite hard to translate. I would translate it to eye level. So the thing was in the old times, like if you were a senior manager, you obviously would talk down to people, not physically, but mentally. Now, that's not acceptable anymore. And the best way I can explain it is that I speak to everyone like I would speak to a friend, or I speak openly, and it doesn't matter if that person is somewhere better paid than me or less paid. Then we moved on to more and more into self-organization and agility, and we started our formal transformation. And between 2018 and 2020, we finally were in the mode where we now are networked organization. Like I said, we work with agile models. We adapt them, but we also are networked, and there is a certain structure, but it doesn't really matter if you're in that area or in that part of an organization, because obviously big organizations need some legal structure. We work on a level where it's what's the product what's the service that our customer needs. Now, another thing that's very important and dear to me, if you want to start a transformation, look at the way you look on human work motivation. And that's actually stolen from McGregor, and badly translated by me. If you think you hired a lazy bunch of people in your company, then you need to look at this. And you need to change your view on people, because everyone in your office is there for a reason, and they want to work there, and they want to add value, and they want to grow. So start looking at that, and that's where we started in 2015, and that's still something that we keep very close. So security guys usually look very closely at details. Now you might notice that there I'm not quite staying true to what I said. Like, the transformation is a complex thing, but at least a certain path is dealt with a complicated process, and that's our transformation process. But it gives you a clear context and a clear guidance what the steps are. So the first step is you found a team. You find at least 5 people you want to work with. You have a certain business model, you have a certain business case, you have a customer, and you start there. And then you go through a quality gate, which we call definition of start plan, definition of start, where you check, okay, is my idea completely nuts, or is this going to work? That's the first step. Then you start establishing your team internal rules, principles, processes. You establish more and more business with the customer. You create an outlook. And then you go through the quality gate called definition of ready. If you are into Scrum, you might know that. And then by that time, you're almost done. Most of the stuff you want to do in the future, your principles are set up. And then you go through a phase where you try that out and experiment. Yeah, you might need some inspect and adapt at that point. And then finally, you go through the definition of done, which is like a construct, almost like a legal construct, because then you get transferred to a new part of the organization, and that's actually a change. So you get a new department code and whatever. And you take on the full responsibility as a team for whatever you deliver. Sorry, I'm very thirsty this morning. Now, I also mentioned some names and terms, and I think it's a Bahn thing that we have some abbreviations and very special terms, so I like to get into them. A team obviously is a team. Then my level is called a unit, eine Einheit, where we, and the third level is a cluster. Now, a team, for those of you who have read a Scrum Guide, consists out of 7 ± 2 people. You can have less or more, but you need to have a really good explanation why you need that. But that actually is a good sizing for a team. There's loads of graphs on the internet. If you have more than 9 people, the communication becomes a lot harder, and decision-making within a team becomes a lot harder. And the teams are on an operational level. Like me, I'm on the unit, on the Einheit level, and we have 8 agile teams. So a unit consists of those agile teams, and we're more on a tactical level. That means that especially work in sprints and iterations, the teams, they usually work in weeks and days, and we work more in months and years. So we're a lot more tactical. And then obviously a cluster consists of units. So I have like a boss as well. And there we go on to the strategic level. So we're going to stand in the next 3 to 5 years. And I think that worked out quite well for us, because you still need a certain structure. You need certain responsibilities, and you need to pin them onto someone. And obviously, like our Geschäftsführung, our CEOs, they can't deal with 600 or 700 teams. So they deal with 10 clusters. Now, how do we share the leadership? How do we share the responsibility across the company? There's only 3 roles. They are on the 3 levels, but there's only 3 roles. Now, product owner, it's a bad translation, the implementation team in the Scrum Guide, the Umsetzungsteam in German. But if I just call it IT, it would be quite stupid. And agility master. Now, I'm an agility master on the unit level. And not surprisingly, almost like in Scrum, the product owner, he looks after our customers, he looks after the economics of the team, he does stakeholder management, and he's responsible for the business development of a team. The implementation team itself is responsible for the value adding, for the service, for the product we're providing, and is also responsible for the sales organization within the team. My role as an agility master means that I'm responsible to develop the teams within the unit. If you're on the team level, you're responsible for, the team itself. I also develop the people, you would call it direct reports, and we look after processes that we have, like must work obviously efficient and maintain self-organization. So, and when we speak of a team, it's the whole team. So that's at least 7 people. Now, this is the context that we worked in, and back in 2017 we started. We already had a lot of guys working in security, doing security consulting across Deutsche Bahn, but they were across the company in different areas, and they founded themselves as teams. I myself have founded a team with, to this day, does penetration testing and like Stride analysis of architecture, so application security. There was another team who does business IT security consulting, and they started in 2017. By 2019, we were done with the teams with the transformation, so we were moved into the new world and to the new Agile world. And then the next logic step would be to start a unit. Now, back then, quite irritating to us, but from today's perspective, it made sense. We did a side step where we did a traditional security structure within DB Systel, which was still working in the old structure, where it was always supposed to be a temporary structure. That was quite irritating for us at the time, but it worked out well because back then I still was like a line manager, and that department that I had almost is what today's unit is. And then obviously we had to formally start the transformation process of the unit. We started in 2019. And now you have the formal start, and the first things you need to clarify is how do we work together? What are our rituals? When do we meet? Where do we meet? And then set up some rules and principles. I really like to make to differentiate that, because rules are something, from like card games, is if, then, or else. And principles are more like the famous Google do no evil. They are much better than to deal with complexity, because you don't need to go through every single case like in programming. And then I was talking about a framework, the context, the constraints. We realized, and we were told, you need more teams, you need more people. So in 2019, our focus was then to take new teams on board. There were already some other places, and we took them on board within our unit, and the teams we had grew to at least 50 people, because that was the minimum size for a unit. And the good thing about that was that from that day on, when we have quite a strong identity, we want to do security and consulting. That's important to us, because sometimes, I don't know about your companies, sometimes consulting is mistaken as answering questions on the phones, and it's actually a lot more than that. Right, now that all sounded very easy and happy, and but then the day came when we did the definition of ready for the unit, and we failed the first time round, and that was quite hard for us, because at first we were quite angry and didn't understand it. And the reason simply was we were so excited about telling them what we do, and we do penetration testing and risk management and everything, and we have great feedback from our customers, What I actually wanted to hear is how we do it, because we need to ensure that we take on the responsibility, because actually, like our CEOs, they give us a lot of responsibility, and that's where we failed. But the good thing is we learned from that quite quickly, and I think only 3 months later we went back and it went great. And also then like half a year later, we went through the definition of done, and that also went absolutely fine. But initially that was quite bad for us. Now, it's called the definition of done, but obviously you're never done, because especially in security and with today's market and even within Deutsche Bahn, things are changing every day, are changing very quickly. So that's the part where the formalities are done. And then you really need to go into inspect and adapt. Does the way you work, do your rules and principles, does your setup still work? And you need to go through that again and again and again. And then also we needed some time, because we had a clear guidance with the transformation process, but we needed to step back and some time to reflect on that. And eventually the thing was, okay, what's the next big thing for us? Okay, we do penetration testing. We are great at security program and project management. We do a great job at risk management and so on and so forth. And for us, from today, it's quite obvious, but back then it wasn't. It was OT security consulting. Now, I don't know if you have seen yesterday's talk about OT. So it's operational technology. It's, I mean, you can imagine with Deutsche Bahn, that's a lot. That's like all the stuff you have on the tracks, on the trains, in the trains, and it's simple things, even like the clocks in the railway stations. It's like a shutting, managing buildings and all that stuff. So that became our next big thing. And then the thing is, if you set up a process like we did, the thing is you need to broaden the view. You need to, leave the formalities behind. Obviously, you have some responsibilities and you need to follow them and take them seriously, but you need to get the bigger picture, especially if you're not on a team level, if you're on a unit or cluster level. And the great thing is you can come up with completely new ideas. Like 2 years ago or something, I had like a very mild corona and I had a really strong headache and didn't really do much. And eventually I thought, okay, this is not okay. We have to cancel a lot of requests from our customers because we're just not enough people. So I just went and looked at our organization and said, okay, that team can take up 2 people, that team needs to split and then can take up 3 people and so on and so forth. And eventually I had this thing where in numbers and just by using the methods and the way we could double in size. And I showed, that was kind of disruption. I showed that to the people that are responsible for the teams. And at first they were a little bit shocked, but eventually the question came out, okay, what's the business behind it? So we came up with a plan and quickly found out where we have more business to expect, because we need to have a positive result within DB System as well. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I've mentioned that to some people over yesterday, is that in my opinion, that there's no war for talents. I think the way we look at applicants and the job market is the problem. What I'm not mentioning on the slides is that since I've started that headache corona thing, we actually doubled in size. Back then, we were about 50 people, and with fluctuation, we started the year with 50 people, and we ended about 50 people. Then last year, we became 75 people, and by the end of this year, we should be about 100 people, and that in the job market that you all know. Now, the problem within self-organization, or it can be a problem, is you have a lot more transparency. The team is in the meetings with the applicant. And obviously within IT and OT security, some people want a lot of money. That's the case. And that can be very unhealthy for a team, because then you get people who say, okay, I don't want that person because he wants more money than me. And the other thing is that sometimes recruiters set the expectations far too high. Like they want straight CVs without any gaps, like people who have come out of school, went to university, did a degree, and then have a lot of practical experience. Now, if you start looking at, come to that later on, so obviously the solution is to look at more CVs and get to talk to more people, because you find some very interesting people, like people who have stopped their studies and did new studies, or people are in the phase of life and they want to change. And that's one thing. The other thing is you need to create and promote, that's why I'm here today as well, a very positive working environment. Like we have the agility, we make people happy, we have a lot of really good benefits, and so on and so forth. And also, what's more important than nice soft drinks in the office and nice furniture is to give them a good career perspective. So we take them on board. When we see, okay, they've got the right attitude, they would fit into the team, and all we need to do is to give them experience and to give them training. And also our recruiting is quite clever on targeting certain experts on social networks before we go into headhunting. And then we take it to another level. We have something we call the Sprint Starter program. If you're German, if you understand German, I've posted a link to a podcast that I did a while ago where I talk about that, what we do there. Now we take people who usually just did their degree on board. We give them a permanent contract, but we have people, all over the place, like people who had a completely different career and want to go into IT security because people apparently, or everyone wants to become a pen tester these days. So yeah, it's quite attractive. So we give them a permanent contract, and then company-wide we have certain, we call them streams, like I do security, other people do SAP, other people do consulting and DevOps and God knows what. And we give them training in theory and practice. So they go to trainings, they go to virtual trainings, and so on. We mix like basic trainings that are shared across the company, like what does a company look like, what does Deutsche Bahn look like, how do trains actually work, what does the railway do. And then we go into deep dive trainings within the streams, like if you join our Sprint Starter stream, then you get specialized security pen testing training. And obviously you also go into a team, do some practical training. And by the end of that, and with a 6,000 people, 7,000 people company, that's quite important. Those people, they're usually about 40, 50 people that we hire in April and October. And by the end of that, they know each other, and that's with a large company, and any company probably very important to have like a company-wide network, and it helps them as well. The other thing is that thing worked out so fine that now, and if you're in that business, OT security is even harder to find. We will start in a few days, from the 1st of October, we will start a program like that on the whole group. Now we have people from all over the place, from all other companies within Deutsche Bahn Group, and we will give them 6 months, not 3 months. We do 3 months assist. We give them 6 months training, and they'll see labs all over the place. They go to workshops, actually hardware workshops, where they can see trains and all our operation and technology. And because I'm so fond of the idea, I'd like to do something that also we did starting last year. We used that method to staff a whole new team. Now we took 2 people. We have a product owner, a guy who joined us like 2 or 3 years ago. We have an agility master, and they staffed a whole new team. They took like 9 young people on board, and they went into the Sprint Starter program. They did a lot of training in penetration testing. They did the transformation process. They should be done with that soon as well. And we, as a unit, gave them a year where we empowered them and they could develop their service as penetration testers. And so far, knock on wood, that worked quite very well. So yeah, we hired 10 people on the spot. Right. That's the end of my slides. You can find me on LinkedIn. Do you have any questions?
I think.
Answer. Hi, thanks for the talk. I was wondering, what does the shared responsibility of the team look like in practice? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. Yeah. That's quite a fun thing because we actually give them a lot of responsibility. Like in practice, if somebody wants like an Arbeitszeugnis, like a recommendation, then they actually have sort of to write it, or at least give the criteria to someone who writes the Arbeitszeugnis. Yeah. They are responsible. I mean, even though you have a product owner responsible for the economics, but they are also responsible for that, and they need to look after that. So it's not acceptable to just do everyday work. They are interested and need to track where are they working, how much money do they earn as a team, and yeah. Does that answer your question, or was that different?
Okay. Everybody's talking about working weeks with less days. So does your structure also include that I can like structure my time according to my likings and can work only like 4 days? Or
yes, we're very, very, very flexible with that. I mean, we don't have a 4-day week, but you may know from the media, we have quite a flexible thing. Like you can have up until 42 days of holidays, and stuff like that. And now, if I talk about 100 people, that's actually natural people. Our full-time equivalent is a lot lower because we get a lot of people who do part-time, and that's something with the responsibility. They obviously need to clarify within the team they work with, yeah. But they actually, with us, they have a right to choose what amount of time they work. There's certain constraints, like I think it needs to be dividable by 8 or something. But as long as that makes sense, you can choose how long you're going to work and what days you're going to work. Which also is a factor of bringing people on the
Okay, I think that concludes the questions. Yeah, I want to say thank you one more time for your great insights and a random applause once again for Markus. Thank you very much for joining us.